Who really benefits from the misfortunes of our favorite artists? A question that echoes throughout the corridors of the music industry, reverberating with the echoes of unsaid truths and untold stories. The music industry, for all its glitz and glamour, hides an underbelly that's far from the shiny facade it presents. Let's take a moment to remember the tragedies that have shaken this industry to its core. Tupac, an artist whose life was cut short in his prime. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, whose sudden death left the world in mourning. And let's not forget the young rappers, rising stars who are mysteriously disappearing or meeting untimely ends. It's a chilling pattern, isn't it? Young, talented, full of promise, and then suddenly gone. Yet through all of this, there's a group that seems to remain untouched by these tragedies: the music executives. They continue to thrive, to profit, while the artists themselves struggle and suffer. But what if there's more to this narrative than meets the eye? What if these aren't just unfortunate coincidences, but part of a larger, darker scheme? What if the real puppeteers are the ones behind the scenes pulling the strings, orchestrating the rise and fall of these artists? Consider this. The music industry is a business, and like any business, its primary goal is profit. It's a world where contracts are king, and where artists often find themselves at the mercy of their record labels. A world where the very people meant to support and nurture talent can become the architects of their downfall. The music industry is a stage, and every stage has its players. But who are the puppeteers and who are the puppets? Who holds the power and who pays the price? So who's really pulling the strings behind these tragedies? Let's delve deeper into this. As we peel back the layers of the music industry, we'll uncover the truth behind the rise and fall of our favorite artists and the dark side of the music industry that often goes unnoticed. Buckle up, because this journey is going to be a bumpy ride. But first, what does owning the masters mean in the music industry? You've certainly heard the term masters thrown around in music circles, but what does it really mean? Simply put, masters in the music industry refers to the original recordings of songs or albums. Owning the masters means you have control over the licensing and replication of these recordings. Imagine the masters as the golden goose of the music world. They're the source from which all other eggs, or in this case, copies of a song or album, are laid. From vinyl records to digital downloads, every copy traces back to the masters. And just like the golden goose, masters are highly coveted for the wealth they can generate. Owning the masters gives an artist the power to control their music. They decide where and how it's used. Want your song featured in a blockbuster movie? That's your call. Don't want your music on a particular streaming platform? You've got that control too. But it's not just about control, it's about the money too. When you own the masters, you're entitled to a larger slice of the revenue pie. Every time your song is played on the radio, streamed online, or used in an advertisement, you get paid. And we're not talking pennies here, we're talking serious dough. So, why don't all artists own their masters? Well, that's where record labels come in. Labels often retain ownership of the masters as part of their contracts with artists. In exchange, they offer promotion, distribution, and sometimes a hefty advance. But this means artists may lose out on potential earnings from their music in the long run. Owning the masters is a symbol of independence and financial security in the music industry. It's a way for artists to take control of their creative output and secure their financial future. It's a way to ensure their music, their legacy, is protected. Now that we understand what masters are, let's see how this ties into the controversies we discussed earlier. Why is Kanye West perceived as crazy when he speaks his truth? This question has been echoed many times as he, like many artists before him, including Prince, Tupac, and Michael Jackson, has battled for control over his music rights. Kanye West, a controversial figure, has been vocal about the inequities in the music industry. His fight isn't just about him, it's about every artist who's been cornered into unfavorable contracts, stripped of their creative control, and denied ownership of their masters. Prince, a legendary musician known for his flamboyant style and genre-bending music, wasn't just a symbol of artistic brilliance, but also a symbol of resistance. He waged a war against Warner Brothers for control of his music, even changing his name to an unpronounceable symbol to escape contractual obligations. His struggle was a testament to the lengths artists would go to protect their craft. Tupac Shakur, a rapper whose impact transcends music, was no stranger to this struggle either. Amidst legal troubles and controversies, he frequently highlighted the exploitation of artists. His untimely death left many questions unanswered. But his fight for artist rights remains a significant part of his legacy. And then there's Michael Jackson, the king of pop. His talent was unparalleled, his influence immeasurable. But behind the glittering facade of fame, he too was embroiled in a fight for his music rights. He famously fell out with Sony, accusing them of not promoting his album, Invincible, adequately due to a dispute over his masters. These artists, each a titan in their respective genres, were united by a common struggle. They fought against a system that often prioritizes profit over artistry, a system that binds artists with contracts that limit their control over their own work. These artists' struggles are not just personal battles, but reflect a wider issue within the music industry. Their stories, their fights, serve as a stark reminder of the importance of artists' rights and the power of owning one's masters. It's a fight that continues today. A fight for creative freedom, for fairness, and for the right to own one's art. What happened to Michael Jackson's Sony deal after his death? A question that has been on the minds of many. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, was not just a phenomenal artist, but also a savvy businessman. His deal with Sony is a testament to that. In the 80s, Jackson astutely bought a catalog that included over 200 Beatles songs, and later merged it with Sony in a 50-50 joint venture, creating Sony ATV. At the time of his death in 2009, his share was estimated to be worth over $1 billion. But what happened next, you ask? Well, after his death, the ownership of his share in the Sony ATV catalog became a part of his estate, managed by his executors. However, the financial pressures were mounting. Jackson had left behind debts amounting to nearly $500 million, and the estate was in a predicament. In 2016, 7 years after Jackson's death, the executors of his estate made a move. They sold Jackson's share of the Sony ATV back to Sony for a whopping $750 million. This move effectively wiped out Jackson's debts and secured the financial future of his children. However, this sale stirred controversy. Critics argued that Jackson himself would never have sold the catalog. He knew the value of owning music rights, having once famously told Paul McCartney, "I'm a businessman. You have always told me you should own your own masters." The sale of Jackson's Sony ATV share also meant that his estate no longer had any control over how his or the Beatles' music was used. The power now lay entirely with Sony. This saga of Michael Jackson's Sony deal underscores the importance of music rights. It's a tale of financial triumph, but also a loss of control. It shows how even after an artist's death, the battles over music rights continue. Clearly, the battles over music rights do not end even after an artist's death. So, who truly benefits from these music rights battles? Well, as we've seen, the scales have been tipped heavily in favor of the music executives, not the artists who pour their heart and soul into creating the music we all love. We've talked about the struggles of Kanye West, Prince, Tupac, and Michael Jackson, and how their careers have been marred by battles for music rights. We've seen how they've been disadvantaged, oftentimes painted as crazy or difficult, when all they've been doing is fighting for what is rightfully theirs. We've delved into the importance of owning the masters. It's not just about financial gain, but about creative control, about having the final say on how your music is used and distributed. It's about ensuring that the fruits of your labor are yours and yours alone to enjoy and benefit from. In the aftermath of an artist's death, their music often becomes a goldmine. We've discussed the case of Michael Jackson's Sony deal, how the value of his music skyrocketed after his untimely death, and yet the benefits were reaped by executives, not his family or his estate. These stories aren't isolated incidents. They're indicative of a systemic issue in the music industry, a structure that favors the corporations over the creatives. This needs to change. The artists who create the music should be the ones to benefit the most from it. They should have control over their work, they should be able to dictate the terms of their contracts, and they should be treated fairly and with respect. As fans, it's crucial for us to understand these issues and support our favorite artists in their fight for fair treatment in the music industry. We can use our voices and our buying power to push for change, to ensure that the people who create the music we love are treated with the respect and fairness they deserve. Because at the end of the day, without the artists, there would be no music. What are your thoughts regarding this issue? Let us know in the comment section.